Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOOnline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I'm your host, Brian Doucette, and as we do every week, we're joined by a brand new guest talking about their life and their journey throughout the world of martial arts. My guest today has been practicing martial arts since 1990 and specializes in the field of combatives and self-defense. He's gained worldwide acclaim for his ability to bridge theory and application, teaching military personnel, law enforcement, and martial artists across the globe. He's a chief instructor of the system Lameco Astig. This system is science-based, whose core principles focus on techniques that emphasize functionality, efficiency, and adaptability in high-pressure situations like the real street scenarios, covering balance, economy of motion, and non-telegraphic striking. He's extensively conducted workshops and seminars in various cities in the U.S., Canada, Mexico, Germany, Spain, Italy, Netherlands, Greece, Belgium, Serbia, and the Philippines, just to name a few. Please welcome my guest today, Guru Roger Agbulos. How you doing today, sir?
Very good, Sir Brian. Should I call you sir?
Brian is fine.
You are so famous because you've done a lot of interviews with luminaries and legends, and
I've had many guests get mad at me for calling them sir, because to me it's a habit. Every martial arts instructor I've had is like sir. So it's just a habit. I call people sir all the time.
Well, fair enough. So I won't call you sir. Okay, sir?
There we go, sir.
There you go. Anyway, moving on.
Nice. Well, what we like to do with all my guests, I mentioned you've been studying for quite a long time, but I want to know where that started. I want to know where that first interest in martial arts came from, that first spark that kicked off your martial arts journey.
All right. Well, I guess I'm already I'm not young anymore, so shall I say I'm an old fart? But
me too.
I grew up with, most of us grew up idolizing the great Sifu, the master of the intercepting fists, no other than the legendary Bruce Lee. Yep. So I grew up watching that movie, and then what a joy watching him. And it seems to be like this is every boy's idol, right? Mm-hmm. So, but in life, a lot of us, we weren't able to go and fulfill our dreams for so many things. One of that is Bruce Lee. But I had the opportunity to meet a friend of mine who became, of course, my idol and mentor in Filipino martial arts, the late Edgar Sulite, who was the founder of this system, as you mentioned, Lameco. Mm-hmm. Lameco is a beautiful system because it's sometimes regarded as the Filipino Bruce Lee. Because for one thing, and of course that's subjective, but a lot of those that high in the martial arts respect of the late, again, my mentor and my friend, Edgar Sulite. In fact, his title is kind of unique in the Filipino. It's called Punong Guro. And the Filipinos, we are into the title of Guru. Yep. Guru is not that necessarily mean master or grandmaster. Guru simply means teacher. So Edgar is Punong Guru. But anyway, Edgar was regarded as the Filipino Bruce Lee because of his open-mindedness of understanding different systems of weapon-based, which is, we call it Kali or Eskrima, mm-hmm. Weapon-based, He went to around the Philippines trying to study and absorb the practical application of so many systems. In fact, it led to the name of that system coming from him as Lameco. But Lameco has its acronym, which is Lameco. La meaning it's largo, which is long range. And he also got into me, which is medium range, and co as in corto, close range. So him having that opportunity, he sought these grandmasters from different provinces or islands in the Philippines to learn from the best, from long-range weapon, which is stick, to long blades, to machetes, to knife,
to empty hands versus knife or machete or long blade or even some other things that can be used as a weapon. Example, like handkerchief and all that stuff. So
Okay.
that is Edgar Solite. And he passed away at a very, very early age,
It was 37 years old, way back 1997.
Wow.
Yeah. So I thought to honor him as my mentor and my brother, the one that I got born in martial arts because of him. I should honor that with continuing on with the system that is Lameco. But I have my version as Astig. Astig meaning the word is Filipino. Astig means hardcore.
Okay.
So I continued on with Lameco Astig.
Nice.
So there you go. I don't want to over.
No, that's good. How old were you when you first met him and started training?
Well, we started as a friend
Mm-hmm.
when I found out about because I have a good friend, Luel, who I know of Luel before Edgar. It so happens that Luel has been doing this way back in the Philippines with Edgar Solite. So they were the guys that propagate Lameco here in the U.S. And Lowell, my good friend, he's still around. It so happened that he has the experience also with stick fighting and knife and all the stuff from various systems in the Philippines. He became at one time a champion of Eskrima in a full contact match. So I got to meet him as my friend, and he introduced me to Edgar as a friend. And when I found out about they do, I took that opportunity. What a joy, So
Mm-hmm.
that's where I started.
Once you started with him, what was it that made you want to keep doing it? What was it about his teaching style? What was it about that system that drew you in?
Well, that's a very good question. I could have ventured into like there's a million systems out there, right?
Right, exactly.
Why? But I would say maybe it's meant to be because I was given that opportunity by whatever in the mystery of the universe we got together. But you know what? I'll tell you this.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, it was meant to be because I stick it out more than 37 years. I am still in that. The science and the application aspect of martial arts, which is weapons combatives, which is street based, because in street application there are no rules, right? So
Yep.
so that was one of the to me, most exciting experience to learn about the nuances of fighting when there are no rules. It's not like there are certain parameters of any style, when you're talking about a certain discipline. But in the world of street, there are no rules because, when the bad guy does not adhere to rules or morals, or he's a bad guy, he will take you out. He's not your friend, right? So
Right.
for that matter, we take into our practice the other elements that has to be part of the practice of that martial arts, because you have to get into not only conditioning, because I think every martial arts system has its conditioning rules and all that stuff.
Definitely.
Yes, but the other elements that is important for your leverage is kind of like economy motion, non-telegraphic or ambush style and all this. So, or versus not one-on-one, but 1 versus 2 or 1 versus 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the critical targets, because it can't be a point system based, because what good is that with a bad guy that wants to take you out even with a knife, right? So
Right.
There's no such thing as point system, and sometimes there's good and bad. The good part of the other martial arts system that goes into competition, it's about fitness and coordination, but that design and discipline is based on how you will win in the tournament. So even a mere point system or touch is a prerequisite for you winning the trophy. But that's fine. But when you go to street application, when there's brawling and all that stuff, that's a different story.
Yeah.
So it entails a different kind of rules, which is a rule of no rules. So, but you have to think of it as a science. So you cannot think all the time as in violence aspect, because you'll be a miserable guy, right? So
That is true.
just watching a Jet Li movie, and then down the stairs when somebody asks you and tap you at the back, where's the restroom, and you're gonna kick his ass, that's it. That's too much of a gung ho, So you gotta relax, but look at it science based.
So you mentioned your friend that became a champion. Now, did you
Yeah.
ever get into the competition side of that at all, or?
Yes, I did. In fact, our group way back I did earlier. He passed away. Edgar Solite, my mentor, passed away in 1997. I started 1990. We are kind of like a fraternity of into that weapon base, but we geared towards sparring. So we practice the drills, and then we apply that to sparring. So we are sparring based. And what I learned so much about that is definitely you train how you would fight, and you fight how you would train. So it's already filtered into the curriculum of Lameco. It's application based, it's performance driven, because there's a lot that in so many systems, particularly even just the Filipino martial arts, there's a lot of the drills that is being taught. I'm just, forgive me for the audience indulgence. I'm just being honest here.
No problem. No problem. We want that.
Okay, so there is a lot that beautiful to see, but they cannot translate that the actual application when it comes to sparring, because it entails a high level of discipline and repetition for more 10,000 times. But the understanding also for economy of motion and understanding of the psychology of the opponent in his movement. You got to be some psychological understanding of body movement so that you can anticipate moves. So a lot of those that in certain FMA system, it's beautiful when they demonstrate. But when I see the on the YouTube, they're the ones that are showing that. So I can only say about us as an audience.
Right.
It does not translate to the sparring aspect. It becomes brawling. So what happened to your 3 years, 5 years, 10, 20, 30, even the grandmasters, right? 30 years or 40 years of that. How is it that it's not coming out in the way it was taught by this system? So therefore, there's a problem there with you. Well, I guess that should be the mantra in anything that is applied base, right?
Right.
You train how you fight how you train. So therefore, there has to be certain intelligence in the way we would train, because it should be in reverse engineering, right?
Right.
To be able to get into the response of an incoming strike. When we analyze that, we should reverse how can that be avoided in terms of that conditioning of our repetition. It should be in that example. You can reverse engineering, and then you train how you fight how you train. So your plyometrics should be based on that conditioning. So it becomes really good as a natural movement to think without thinking. That takes a lot of discipline and repetition. That's why they say that's a 10,000 hour rule, right? Or 10 years for that to be able to be a master of something. It has to be internalized. That's why even my idol, the legendary Bruce Lee, he says that be wary of the guy that can kick and has done this one technique, done this 10,000 times rather than doing 10,000 techniques done one time.
Yeah, exactly.
So there has to have that internalization in your head when you practice this over and over. In that practice, even if it's solo training or with sparring with somebody else, that requires additional requirements, meaning the visualization is important. The intensity of your visualization, even if it's solo training, has to be done, because you should practice in the condition of how you're going to be in that situation. So you are able to get a subconscious experience in your head. And it is not just like, oh my gosh, I'm too excited about this program you have.
That's okay.
Maybe so it's similar to the pilots or of Top Guns or for any fighter jets for any country. Of course, they're the best in their training.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that they have downed an enemy pilot, for
Right.
that matter, for an enemy jet. All of them, even if they're the best, they have not done this. But in their practice, even with it's just the simulators, right?
Hmm.
They treat that as real. They became the best of the best. So therefore, in even with your practice, when you have the right condition of your mindset, so having that visualization and intent, you get to that degree of reality. What a beautiful journey, because it definitely becomes you, which is the thinking of no thinking. It becomes just natural.
I like it.
I'm just babbling.
No, it's good. I like it. So what made you want to go down the teaching path? What made you want to teach martial arts?
Well, to me, it's not because of I want to teach, but rather that to be able to have this in your head that becomes subconscious, you have to express so that you have clarity in the breakdown of that technique in your head. Because if you don't get it, how are you going to be able to teach that? So it becomes more meaningful and more visually stunning, if I may say that, in your head when you are able to break down and express yourself, then you're able to validate what is good and you're able to validate also what is bad. Because when you teach and it does not apply in the actual drill or sparring, so you can correct that and you learn from mistakes. So therefore, there's the beauty in teaching because it is an expression of what you know. Also, it teaches you a lot of things when you're teaching.
Yes.
Because of that, you learn from your mistakes, which is the most beautiful thing in life. Because when we fail, when we commit mistakes, is when it becomes a win-win attitude, even if you lost, because you learned something, which is, it could be any degree of whether it's a small matter or a big matter, but you learn from your mistakes. So by teaching, you also become better as a teacher.
Yes. I like it. So what do you think? Think back to maybe the first time you taught someone to now. You're still teaching, you have a school, you're still teaching. What do you think has changed the most about your teaching style over all these years?
Well, I don't believe in the way, well, when some people kind of gets into too serious, right? And they even hurt their students.
Mm-hmm.
They're okay. It's not the way to go, because if you in front of the class, you're gonna go demonstrate a technique to students, and then you get into a technique that you hurt him. So that sometimes there's a two sides of the coin here.
Mm-hmm.
When some instructor says that you hurt them so that they would get into the realistic application, so they try to avoid the mistakes of what they do or what they didn't do. So, but to me, that's not, because if you hurt them, maybe in the beginning, but you don't have to necessarily do it all the time, especially when you're doing like knife or a trainer. But there's point, it's a weapon, even if it's a trainer, and you hurt them all the time, even empty hands, you kick their ass all the time, despite that you are only teaching, because the student is not at the level of the instructor, meaning they don't get into the chance of defending themselves, because it's teaching a particular technique. So for the instructor to hurt them,
Mm-hmm.
that's not fair. Maybe if you have that in your style and you're teaching in a seminar, go ahead and ask anybody from not in the same system, but as an okay, but you have to tell them, okay, block if you want to, protect yourself while I do this technique. And that will change the game.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would allow, for anybody to get hit or whatever that means. So I don't like that style of teaching. You have to show a little bit of control,
Definitely.
because they have to be in, also you gotta have that engagement of your audience or the interest. So there is also the art of presentation. Have you been to church?
Yes.
So do you know that a lot of people don't listen to the priest,
Yeah.
because of the sermon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not interactive, it's not engaging, it's monotonous. Or so if you are to talk to a public event, you have to make sure that the interest is sustained through humor, presentation, demonstration, interaction with your audience. So those are very important elements to be able to be a good teacher or instructor.
Yes, definitely. So what made you want to open your own school, and talk a little bit about that school?
Well, really, to be honest, my school is very informal. I just do it in my home.
Okay.
I have a good size of a backyard, so we do this here. Every Sunday we do early in the morning, like 8 o'clock, because the thing here is that on a weeknight, it's rather there's a high ratio of failure because you're so tired and all the stuff. There's traffic and all the stuff. So we want to get this out of the way on a Sunday, 2 hours Sunday, get it out of the way so you still have time to go with your family, whatever. So that's what I do. I teach here in my home. But I didn't want to have my formal school, even if I've been doing this for 37 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only saying that 37 years, but they're probably more than a lot of the guys that you interview, they're luminaries and legends who has done this for 50, 60 years. So
Yeah.
in my honest of this subject, 37 years is not enough for so many
Hey,
people.
I've only been going 41, so 37 is
So
pretty
there you
good.
go. You see, there you go. So I didn't want to have my own school formally because I don't want to be teaching kids for that matter because it pays for the rent, the insurance, and all. I didn't want to
Yeah.
get into that. I'd rather be the artist fighter, if you may,
Mm-hmm.
for that matter, and just have the ones that's really interested of this particular subject, which is combatives, special and self-defense. But I also spend time of going out, traveling, seminars,
Yep.
so it does not constrain me to having to run my own school, and I got to get to the budget and all this. I'm just a gung ho of the science of application based. So
Okay.
that's where I am.
You mentioned seminars. How many seminars do you do a year? How often are you traveling for seminars?
I have my regular job.
Okay.
So just like you, right? You mentioned that in
Yep.
our talks just before the interview. I have my own regular job. I chose to be doing a regular job because there's a lot that I think there's so many things that you can still learn from corporate environment or whatever is the environment of that industry because you learn about or you connect with a lot of people and there's a communication and then there's the protocols and all that stuff, etiquettes and problem solving and all that stuff that goes with a regular job. But I find this a beautiful experience in my industry, which is I work in an aerospace industry.
Oh, cool.
So
Okay.
so there is a lot to learn from that industry because of principles that I can apply, even taking that into my martial arts, even if I haven't done this, I have done this for a long time. I learn
Mm-hmm.
of coming from that industry. In some of those principles that they use in manufacturing job in aerospace is that objective evidence. You cannot base your technique based on emotions. I am the man. I'm a damn good, being emotional,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to take into serious consideration of objective evidence. So it has to be like when you fight. I don't want to base my learning from my fight watching the video without, again, I'm going to use that word over and over, objective evidence, because when you talk about this and without the recording aspect of it, you lose, again, that objectivity. It becomes more emotional or machismo and all that stuff. So in that manner, you don't learn from your mistakes. So the objective evidence is important to go to the intelligence aspect of learning from your mistake, your failure. We have been doing this way back when I started Lameco from Edgar Sulite, 1990. And we did a lot of sparring. And I was able to have that opportunity to buy a video camera. And that time it was just so big cameras, the Super 8, becoming
Yep.
the 8 millimeter I8. But I had the chance to document that. And I love that I did that. And I shared that with Edgar Solite and the others because I was able to see how I performed, even if I got beaten up. We're all learning from the same stage, right? There are
Right.
others that's already ahead of us, like a year or two or three, and I got beaten up. But with the video, I watched this more than not 10, not 50, probably in all those years. Until now, I've watched my fights more than 1,000 of times.
Wow.
And that is the most beautiful thing if you stay modest and humble, is that you learn from your mistakes. That you change for the better. That timing or the lack of conditioning of that particular drill or angle or the philosophy or the psychology, because you got to read. And so I became better by learning through my mistakes over and over and over and over.
That
It
makes
became a
perfect
joy.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Back in 2006,
Yes.
you wrote a section for the book Masters of the Blade. You sent me a copy of the part that you wrote. Have you done any other writing since then, or have you thought about maybe writing your own book or doing more writing?
Yes, I have some certain magazines, and I never thought about going with a book. I think I'm not of a writer. I'm not much of a writer, but I'm better in my expression.
Okay.
But writing to me takes more effort.
Yeah, it
rather
does.
than
It definitely does.
yes, yes. So others are gifted with that talent. Yeah. No, I'm just saying. Did I say I'm just a boy toy? No, I'm just kidding. We should do that. Yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, yeah.
So what do you think is your favorite weapon to train with of all the weapons you've learned?
I think it's important that you have the flexibility of weaponry because of because of that understanding. So you become practical.
Mm-hmm.
You are able to use whatever is applicable or whatever is that is an opportunity when it's there.
Mm-hmm.
You use it, and that becomes so. Therefore, to us, in especially Lameco Astig, we encourage ourselves to work on long weapon, stick, blade, machete, knife, double knife, and empty hands, and all that stuff. So it's important to have the practicality, functionality, and so you become better in your understanding.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of other weapons, in specifically with example with the other systems, wherein they have the three-sectional blade or long blade or the staff, because I don't think I can use that at all. What's the point in being good at it when it's less of a practicality? So.
Okay. So over your 37 years in the martial arts, is there one philosophy that is super important to you? It's at the top of your list?
Well, I have never thought about that because it's a combination of so many things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would say that us, especially us in martial arts, right?
We are able to have that conversation, a friendly conversation with masters, guru, practitioners, whatever. When they say, yeah, because there has to be a block and then attack and all the stuff. Yeah, I know that. I understand that. And then my footwork and all this stuff is, I do that a lot and I do the feint. And those are just examples, or also a combination of all of those things sometimes in one conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you this, one of the adage that got into my head, which is very important. It became my adage, my mantra, my dogma.
Okay.
Is like the to know and not to do is not knowing. This is by Leo Buscaglia, a revered author.
Mm-hmm.
So it's to know and not to do is not knowing. It's the same as arithmetic or mathematics, which is 1 times 0 equals 0. You say you know, but you're not able to execute it. Is the biggest truth. The absence of doing does not make sense at all. 1 times 0 is 0. So that's one of those things.
Okay.
Eddie Solite has one adage that stuck to me all these years, and I think it's one of the most beautiful thing that he said that I got to internalize very strongly and very well.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the repetition is the mother of all skills. I know I've heard it with other mother stars similar, but
Yep.
when he said that repetition is the mother of all skills, it's beautiful.
I mean, that's kind of like the Bruce Lee comment about, doing something 10,000 times. That's
Exactly.
same type
exactly.
thing. So that makes sense.
Yes, yes. And there's so many things. And when I practice with everybody in drills or in sparring, when you strike, right? When you strike,
Mm-hmm.
of course, it has to have certain parameters. So you can't do a recoil, right? Because otherwise you're going to get hit because you telegraph your move.
Yep.
So the most important elements there that has to be done in your repetition of your strike, aside from moving forward. So there's a coordination of the upper and lower body into it in your strike. Is that when you strike, it's not all the time that you're able to hit anyone for that matter, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, when you strike, you kind of have a pause in your strike because you miss, right?
Right.
That pause is a problem because if that was, I am your opponent, it doesn't mean that you're able to hit me. I am sure 100% you won't hit me because that's the nature of the game. We don't practice to get hit. We practice avoid hit. So therefore, when somebody tries to hit you and they stick it out with your extended hand, that is where I'm going to attack you. So that's why in Jeet Kune Do, right, they basically says the 3 kinds of attack in Jeet Kune Do is before, during, and after, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that aspect of after is the one opportunity that you can hit back. So therefore, the one of the expressions here that we do here, your beginning form is your ending form. Your ending form is your beginning. So therefore, when you try to strike, you don't leave your hand or your body position the manner that can be hit on. So therefore, your ending form should be the beginning form. So you stay on the on guard position all the time. So there is no opportunity for gaps or, positioning where he can strike you in the hand or the head because there's so many opportunities that can be done. So
Nice.
I'll try to remember more of those, the things that one-liners, right? Because those are very important.
There you go.
Do you have one that you think is one of the most important, inspiring one-liners?
Mine changes a lot, but I've always liked Bruce Lee's "Be Like Water."
Okay.
That's always been one of my favorite ones. Big Bruce Lee fan, so.
Yes, that's philosophical.
Yep.
It is much more deep in the learning of the philosophy of Jeet Kune Do
Mm-hmm.
when we have
Years of experience in the learning curve of our failures and our winning and all of that wisdom build up. So therefore, when we read the book, it becomes more meaningful.
because
Right.
we can relate to the wisdom of what being said, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yes. Rather than just reading, yeah, that's right. So again, it's the same as what I said a while ago. To know and not to do is not moving. So
I like it. All right. How about a worst martial arts related injury?
we get injured all the time when we do sparring a lot, right? So
Yeah.
even in our practice, the intensity of our workout, I work out a lot on my own. So what I'm able to perform or
Mhm.
execute or teach is the product of, I would say, 80 to 85% of my time, personal time. So
Okay.
there is the personal attribute development on your own. And I get injured back and with my joint knees and father time, right?
Mhm.
So because it's part of the territory that
Yep.
we chose to do, and it's a fact of life. But to directly answer your question, I haven't had any serious injury pertaining to martial arts.
It's been surprising when I've asked that question. There's been a lot more people that haven't had serious injury. I thought when I brought the question up that I'd get a lot more people like, I broke my tibia, I fractured my, no. Most people, it's like, I sprained an ankle, nothing serious.
Yes.
So
Yeah, but I had a few months break and because of kneecap that lasted maybe in
Mhm.
back. I can't do it for 2 months, 3 months. But I know Bruce Lee has that problem, right?
Yep.
He broke his back. Yeah.
Yeah, he had the back injury from doing those specific. I forgot which exercise.
Yes.
The morning after exercises or morning glory exercise. I can't remember what they were called, but
Yes, I've had so many problems because of the duration of our tenure in martial arts.
yeah,
So
definitely.
it is a fun journey.
Oh yeah. So, what are your thoughts on something like MMA, the UFC? Is that something you're a fan of? Do you watch that at all?
I do. Yeah, it has a certain sports aspect of it. So,
Yeah.
So with that understanding, I enjoy. I'm a big fan, but I am a stand-up guy.
Mhm. Yeah.
Application based of your street. I don't think that's a good idea when you're walking down the alley and where you get jump on and you're on. So I'm just when it comes to application, I prefer stand-up.
All right. So I have some fun questions we use to wrap up the interview. We were just talking about MMA. Let's say you got the chance, you got called to the UFC and you were going to walk into the cage and fight. What music's playing as you're you're taking that walk to the cage? What's your walk-up song going to be?
I know for the most part, all the answers would almost be the Rocky thing, right?
A lot of people pick Eye of the Tiger. Mine is You're the Best from the Karate Kid. So.
Wow.
But I've had people pick, Metallica and things like that. And...
But I may be different because when I work out, there is no music, nothing.
Nothing. Wow. Okay. You're my third or fourth guest who says they work out with no music. That's just weird.
No.
Wow.
The thing that I have in my mind is about cadence and rhythm.
Okay.
Just like the rhythm of the drum, although I don't think about the drum, but it's about silent rhythms. But because even with strikes, there are rhythms in there. When I teach that the rhythm, the cadence of rhythm. So when you say one count, right? One, and then you do one count, one beat, one meaning one strike, and then you get back.
Okay.
And two, you hit, one strike, and you get back. But there's also the say we're putting that on the next layer or a progression. In one count, say one back, two forward, back, three forward. So that is a count, right? So in the first progression is one count, one beat. Okay, one strike as you get back, right? So in the second layer, which is two beats, that is the interception base. As somebody strikes you, you go forward as you intercept the incoming strike, and as you land for that one count, you hit him and then back. So there is that rhythm. There's beats. One beat, two beats, three beats, even four beats.
Okay.
So that's how I do without the music, but I work on rhythms, cadence, measures,
I like it.
Yes, well, thank you. But there's also a higher level of performance in terms of being able to dominate fights when you are in that zone of rhythm. The rhythm of broken rhythm, because it is important to understand that when you fight, you cannot base on the same rhythm all the time because you become very telegraphic and predictable.
Right.
So you have to mix it up. So a rhythm of broken rhythm. It is well explained in the concept or the principle of combative principles by Colonel Boyd, which is the OODA loop, right? Observe, orient, decide, and act. When you're ahead of the OODA loop, that changes the game. You are dominant because you let your opponent guess what you're doing.
Nice.
And it's, martial arts is very, very, it's beautiful because there's so much to learn from this subject. Okay. Even that rhythm of broken rhythm. Well, when everybody says, in martial arts, you probably heard this, the best defense. I'll go ahead and let you finish this. Tell me, what is that?
Best defense is a good offense. Yep.
Right. Do you believe in that?
I think so, yeah.
To me, to a certain degree, but not necessarily.
To a certain degree, yeah.
Yes, because sometimes to me, the best defense is the defense via interception. Because when you go for the best defense is offense, the other guy, I'm already giving you out the technique of interception, right? So if you are going to get intercepted, get slammed, or if we're talking about weapon base, you're going to get your head cracked, man, because you just went through your interception.
Yeah.
So the best defense is offense, not necessarily. The best defense is defense through interception, and then you go to the offense.
I was like Mr. Miyagi's saying from the Karate Kid, the best defense is no be there.
Exactly. You know what? I say that in my seminar.
Nice.
Yeah. But not in the words of wisdom by Mr. Miyagi. But I say that what we do is, first of all, is that we have to think of our consequences when we make decisions. When you want to be a gung-ho and, you act without thinking because of pride that you have as a man, again, machismo, right? So there's some consequences because, like, for instance, we have experienced this a lot with driving, right? Driving. Somebody cut you off, you have road rage in your head. And then, for all you know, if you honk, right, the guy might stop and take his bat or two or three people out That's the reason why there's such a thing as the road rage.
Yeah.
You cannot ever predict what's going to happen, and it might have a gun or what. So I say this, even with in a bar or whatever, it can always spark to something bigger because of that rage we have inside us. So it's better to think about this. It's better to walk away. At least you live another day.
Yeah.
But again, I'm going to get back to what I said a while ago. I know you would agree, yeah, but that's easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
To know and not to do is not knowing. So that's why people get in trouble
Yep.
because they say that we know that. But when we're talking about this, it's very simple. Yep, yeah, I agree. But in that actual situation, you don't know. You have not rehearsed your head to have that patience in you because this has to be done in small increments so that it becomes strong in you when you try to get away from certain situations like that. So you have to practice that in small increments.
Yep, definitely. I agree.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, I am giving you a lot of my rant.
That's okay. All right. Who are 3, 4, 5 names you'd put on your personal Mount Rushmore of martial arts?
Well, one thing is Bruce Lee because of being a philosophical, intelligent combatant. I like his thinking. Well, you know what? There is so many because I watch YouTube, right? Even in Instagram, all these great fights, not even the luminaries of boxing, right? Oh my gosh.
Yep.
There's so much to learn from these guys. Strong puncher, very aggressive, because that is the mindset that is required. It is half the job, right?
Yeah.
When you think about destroying your opponent, but I don't think that's really personal. But that is what they are when they are into the fighting aspect. So, like for instance, Tyson, oh my God, what a beast. Because you know what, the current president, he always says peace through strength, right? So this intimidation is through strength and power. It's half the job, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful. And I like also the counter punchers because they see the rhythms, the gaps when somebody is already like trying to hit you multiple 100 times. There is always a gap of opportunity, and that's when I am always inspired by those fighters. Although I can't mention the names because I don't have a good memory, but I think one of those good counter punchers is Mayweather, right?
Yeah, Floyd Mayweather.
Pacquiao's one of Pacquiao's greatest. His nemesis is Marquez. He's a great counter puncher, man.
I think so, yeah.
And so many boxers.
Yeah.
In MMA, I don't regularly watch MMA, but anyway, I fail with that question. So
that's okay. You gave some good answers, so that's good. How about a favorite martial arts book?
The kind of books. I have not only just martial arts, I have reality-based combative books there.
Okay.
Dave Grossman, Lieutenant Grossman.
Yep.
Have you heard, right? So The Art of Killing. I have several books of weapon-based, I have, it becomes very classical and all this stuff. I really enjoy much more in the subject of application-based. So I just want to be polite with a lot of the
That's
books.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. If you have too many to pick, that's okay.
Yes. There is a lot to pick.
Okay, no problem.
Well, one of those books is also where I was part of it, The Masters of the Blade by Grandmaster Ray Galang.
Yeah.
He resides now in Australia. He's the author of so many books, and they're really good because it's a compilation of biographies of different styles. So you learn a lot from
nice.
Certain systems and luminaries as well. Yeah,
right.
It's one of those books that I really enjoy. Is on Killing.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Have you heard? Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's book about fighting science, so it talks about a lot in the fighting aspect which is science based, right? So timing, rhythm, and all the stuff. I even appreciate the book of fencing because there is so much to learn about that, and it's really a taking away wasted motion because that's very, very fast paced fighting. So
cool.
I learn a lot.
You got a couple good ones in there, so.
There's also certain books that I read to be able to learn of my conditioning, which is some books about plyometrics. So we gotta to be able to improve on strength and speed, power.
Yep.
You use plyometrics, but the plyometrics that the book I have several books of plyometrics, but those kind of plyometrics does not, to me, there's definitely some adaptation of what I use so that my movement is much more geared towards my movement of offense defense in weapon-based fighting.
Okay.
So, yeah, I use heavy gears, but in the movement of sparring of weapon base. So knife as well and all that stuff.
Okay. How about a favorite martial arts video game?
I don't do the games.
No video games? Okay.
I used to,
Yeah.
but I don't want to get hooked up with that. So I'd rather,
No
I'd
problem.
rather spend my time doing my workout, or at least when when I have the free time, I'd rather watch SpongeBob than do the video game.
Okay. How about a favorite martial arts TV show?
No, I don't watch so much TV. My wife is the one that dominates the TV time, so it's all about
None from your childhood?
martial arts.
Yeah.
I don't think.
No? Okay. That's fine.
Well, give me an idea. What? But
I mean, back in like the 70s, we had Kung Fu with David Carradine. In the 80s, we had Sidekicks. We had The Master. In the 90s, we had Highlander.
I got you there because
Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yes, so I got you there because I'm turning the tide to your, because you are revealing how old you are. So you see,
Yeah.
So I know about Kung Fu and all this stuff. I used to enjoy. Yeah, but you know what? We are so crazy about, but not as crazy as my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Following that Game of Thrones, man.
I've never watched it.
Oh my God,
I've never watched it. I was too busy watching like Cobra Kai and Into the Badlands when that was on.
Yeah, I don't want to get stuck with theories or
No, I get it.
because of that reason.
Okay.
I'd rather really I enjoy watching YouTube documentaries or fights about all that stuff. So with my interests.
Okay, cool.
So I'm not really so much into TV and
that's okay.
Or just me. But I love movies.
All right. Well, that's the next one.
Yeah.
Favorite martial arts movie?
Oh my gosh. This the all-time great is of course John Wick, man.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because I like that, except for the gun. But I enjoy the action all throughout, 100%. But except for the gun, because I'm not a gun guy. I'm not military. I'm not law enforcement. So I'm not in the battlefield that you have to use the gun. So I'm not into
a lot of people mention John Wick. That's getting very popular on here. So
right. I like the action because also that it's well choreographed. I like the story, the well choreographed, especially when the training of Keanu Reeves gets into very serious, high level training. So he gets the experts of that particular field.
Yeah.
It becomes very authentic. Like the guy that he learned the knife from, and he's a Filipino guy. Yeah. So I like that John Wick.
That's cool. All right. Final question. This one doesn't have to be a martial arts movie. Any movie you've seen in your whole life, favorite movie fight scene?
Keanu Reeves in the John Wick, when the Asian gangs trying to chase him was throwing knives and they exchanged throwing knives of each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was funny, and so
I
guess I'm not a normal guy because I miss out on a lot of your questions.
No, that's okay. You're not the only one. Trust me. There's some of those ones that people just don't have answers for. A lot of people don't play video games, and
But I know I know of SpongeBob and Patrick, his best friend. So
I actually last year I went to a local theater production of SpongeBob the Musical. It was actually a really good show.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I've seen it twice. It's a really good show. I guess it was on Broadway. It did really well. Won a lot of awards.
Oh,
yeah, SpongeBob the Musical. If you see it playing at a local stage theater, community theater, go check it out.
I would even wear a tuxedo, man, for that show.
There you go. It's a fun show. I highly recommend it.
Okay, will do. Speaking of travel, you said you just did a travel somewhere for that.
Dude, just got back from Utah. Yeah, my middle son goes to school in Salt Lake City for acting, and we were out there watching him in a play. So we were doing a little road. Drove to Utah a few weeks ago and came back, and I'll probably be going out there again in the fall, and then probably next spring when he graduates. So we'll go out there at least a couple more times. So, and now my daughter wants to go there too. So we'll probably be going there a lot more in the next few years.
Nice. You know what? Not too long ago, a few weeks ago, it's last month. My wife and I, we were just in London and Prague.
Wow.
I did a seminar there, 2 day seminar in London and some privates in Prague.
That's
I
cool.
had a chance to meet some very good martial artists
Mm-hmm.
from different systems and styles.
Nice.
I even met a guy. His name is Jamie Seal. He's actually an author and a chief instructor of a certain traditional Japanese that.
Wow.
And he wrote a lot of books about that. It's actually bestseller books.
Okay.
This is it's called Shurin Kai Jutsu Kobudo and Weapons Waza. So I'm not so familiar with
Mm-hmm.
the Japanese term, but he attended my seminar.
Nice.
And one guy that attended also my seminar is his name is John Scudero. He's the head instructor of Lightning Scientific, a Filipino martial arts system. He's
Okay.
based in Israel. I think he's been there for 15, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he teach Filipino weapon base, which is stick and knife and all that stuff. He attended my seminar. And
Very cool.
other guys that flattered me for them joining my
Mm-hmm.
seminar. But part of what I do when I do seminars is that I encourage sparring. But I right away tell everybody not to be afraid of the uncertainty of because it's fighting, it's sparring. But we should learn to be open-minded because it teaches us to know where we are and where we can be. So it's a point A to point B. So the point B is what you are entrusting me to do to be able to be better as, martial artists or fighters in those principles that is important in the seminar that I'm able to teach them. And I show them, at least I demonstrate with them how
cool.
I move so that they have an evaluation of objective evidence of what could be,
Mm-hmm.
So I spar. Even at this age, although I'm not going to tell you that I watch Kung Fu way back in the 50s or the 60s, but I condition myself at least for what I can in combat cardio, plyometrics,
Mm-hmm.
economy motion, balance, dynamic balance, and all that stuff, and everything that I say. But I show them because it is important that in the study of how you can be better is that whether your understanding of timing or of course psychology of it and anticipation and all the stuff, whether it works or not. So objective evidence is definitely demonstrated in the actual event. So I show them, but I tell them too that I will definitely get hit. But if I lose to any one of you, or for that matter, in any time of my life, at least even if I lost, I am one day better than I was yesterday. So the understanding of or the learning of our failures is a win-win situation regardless. But that is something that we should be open-minded about because what are you going to teach your kids if you don't do that yourself?
Yeah.
You got to give them good principles, good wisdom, because through your own leadership that you lead by example. You get down. When you get down, you get up and learn from it. The most important thing is that if we don't reflect on our errors, if we don't gain anything. We should try to do some reflections and evaluation of why we fail because we can do something about it. And that's the beautiful thing about even life itself. That
Mm-hmm.
is the way to go, right? We learn a lot by our mistakes. And there's no book that is the best book, I think. So forgive me if I didn't remember that book. But the book is Bounce by Matthew Syed
Ah, okay.
because it's all about failure. And it's the principle of mastery through due diligence by understanding or getting through that discipline of time and effort through proper coaching, through mistakes, the 10,000 rule, and by marginal gains, you learn from different things from economy motion to the plyometrics of little and none. All of those, regardless whether it's just marginal in the gain, but the overall effort speaks a lot in your performance. So therefore, the saying again, that even if I fail, even if I lost, I'm always one day better than I was yesterday.
I like it.
It's part of my mantra.
I like it. That's good. That's really good. Well, Roger, seriously, man, this has been so much fun. I've loved hearing your story, loved getting to know you, and I really think the listeners are going to enjoy this one too.
I hope I didn't make a fool of myself.
You did a great job, sir. Seriously, this was
Thank
really fun. I really enjoyed it a lot.
Well, thank you, Brian. thank you for this opportunity because I think we both have the same passion. I think our audience as well. So what a joy being in your show. Thank you, sir.
Seriously, man, we'll definitely stay in touch, and I'm looking forward to getting the episode ready.
All right. Well, thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.
This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.